Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm going to show you a full build of a V10 Viper, or Viper V10, whatever they call it. I found this car at the junk auctions in Car Mechanic Simulator, and this is basically going to be a kind of fast-forwarded run through of a full teardown and rebuild. In the background of this, you will see that I also found a Aston Martin DB5. That one I tried to remove most of the content where I was working on that car because I was doing the two simultaneously, but you will see it occasionally. That was my second build of one of those, so I didn't keep it. The first one that I did is still in my parking lot. It's the fully James Bonded version. So, but anyway, Viper V10. This is my first time working on one of these in particular, outside of a couple of customer interactions. So this is a ground up rebuild of the car, and I'll show all of the pertinent elements of that work. I'm not going to keep talking to a camera though. I'm just going to narrate the rest of this. So, all right, enjoy. Alright, so here's the cars that I picked up in that auction junkyard run. First thing I usually do is I put a car in the wash bay. This gives a better idea of what kind of shape the bodywork is in. Makes it easier to see missing pieces, that sort of thing. I usually also do an interior, even though it's kind of unnecessary since I'm going to probably strip the interior on this car. And then with this particular one, I didn't look at any stats before I bought it. I just started bidding, and I was surprised to find the engine fully intact. Then I put it on a lift. Once it's on a lift, first thing I'll do is I'll lift it all the way up. You can see I did the Aston Martin before. I'll go underneath, and if it's got an intact oil pan, then I will drain the oil because that's the first thing you have to do to remove the engine. Get that done really quick, and then I skipped ahead because I checked the Aston Martin. Then I go and I remove everything that's impeding removing the engine. So that's most of the drivetrain back there, in this case, and then of course the starter. You got to take those forward exhaust pipes off. You have to take the drive shaft if it has one. The transmission, of course, the transmission is going to get upgraded on this one. And then because it's easy to get to, I usually take this stuff off really quick too, because that clutch plate and stuff, it's a little harder to get to on the engine, whatever it's called, engine stand. Then there's those exhaust pieces coming off. And the engine should now be ready to be pulled intact. So to do that, I have to drop the lift, and then go get the engine hoist, which I think has a different name in this game. Engine crane, yeah. And then there's a couple things I forgot to remove because I did not know that on the Viper you have to take the air intake and stuff off. That crossbar is considered bodywork, so you don't necessarily have to remove it, but I did just because there's a lot of things in this game that I do because they make sense, not because the game requires it. You'll see, like when I install the tires, I do a star pattern like you would in real life, because I've done so much of that it's just kind of habit. So anyway, pull the engine, and done. You can see the engine's fully out. At this point, I remove everything out of the engine bay, drain all of those things, all of that, and then I lifted the car back up so I could start pulling all of the running gear. So I'm taking off braking, suspension, basically everything under the car. All we'll be left with is a body shell when this is done. Well, in the vehicle's frame, because you don't deal with that in this game either. So you're just kind of seeing the process through that. This stuff is not... so this is one of the things that I think is funny. They call it DW04, but it's WD-40, right? And it fixes everything rusty. It's amazing. It's pretty hilarious. Now we're going to do the interior. So again, just going into the interior, stripping everything out. I am marking it here so I have it on a shopping list to buy these parts later. Makes life a lot easier when you know you're going to have to look up parts. Then run the welder over, and this is how you fix all the body parts you can't strip off the car. While that's going, I am actually doing the body part repair. So any of the body parts you can fix, this is what this is for. It's a very similar thing to fix the other parts of the car. So all the mechanicals, you go over to this table and you do those the same way. It's the same idea. It's pretty tedious. This little mini game gets really boring because you'll literally do it hundreds of times per car or set of cars. Then mount the engine to the engine thing. I always forget what these are called. Engine stand. And then start removing stuff. So you can see you have to remove pulleys to get to belts. You have to remove components, like you see the alternator up there, you see the power steering pump down there on the right, that sort of stuff. You just start tearing the engine down top to bottom. Ultimately, we'll end up with just the engine block. So some of this, I'll jump ahead here because some of this is like these. I wanted to keep these in because this is super tedious. It's a 10-cylinder engine, so you got 20 of these. Not just those rockers, you've also got to pull the little, the pins. I forget what they're called now again. I'm terrible at actual names for things. I know a lot of trade names for things. So off with the oil pan. You can see the top end of the engine is done. I pulled off the oil pan, and now we're going to take each of these rod caps and pistons out, as well as you can see the camshaft keepers there, or the crankshaft keepers. I always say that wrong too. So anyway, there you go. Engine is stripped, but I missed something. So now I have to figure out what that was. Turns out it's the crankshaft because it's hidden in the middle. You can only get to it from the front. So I pulled that out. Engine is torn down. I repaired all the parts I could, made a shopping list, bought a bunch of stuff, and now we're going to put it back together. You start out by mounting a block. So when I'm doing this game, I don't take, like, once the engine is done and I've removed the block, I just exit the stand and go do the repairs and come back, because now by the game the engine is still installed. This makes it a whole lot easier to just rebuild the same engine instead of having to go through the process required to build an engine from scratch, which is much longer, and you'll probably do it wrong for the car you're trying. So anyway, you can see I'm grabbing some items here. We're in the tuning shop, so I'm buying a lot of the tuning items that are going to need to be thrown on this car. All of these, you see the little percentage, those percentages add up, and you can get somewhere between 30 and 70% more performance out of a car. So in other words, your horsepower and everything else go up by that. At the end, I will dyno this car and you'll see all of that. And then, yeah, so just grabbing some things. There's a few things that I was a little confused on because there is a right and left for those things, so you have to pay attention to what you're buying. Same thing happens to me all the time with tires and wheels. Sometimes, like on this car, you'll have a different size on the rear versus the front, so you really got to pay attention to that stuff. So you can see I just buy the items and then delete them off my shopping list, and I only bought 8 of those. That'll come back to haunt me later. I keep most of the engines I've done in this game are V8s and 6s. So I've done one 12 that was a Jaguar engine, I believe. But otherwise, so by habit, I tend to be buying 8, not 10. So some of that will come back to haunt me, but it's just a matter of coming back in here and buying a couple more. So first I put the keepers on, because in real life that's what you would do. You want to keep that crankshaft from falling out. And then I'll do the, see, I have to mark that to buy one, and then I'll jump to each of the pistons here. And you have to buy the pistons and rings separate. But when you uninstall, they come apart as you pull it apart, so you don't see the piston rings at all when you uninstall, which is a little of a bit of a pain because then you can't mark them for a shopping list. So each of these go on, and then we jump ahead to the rest of the engine rebuild. So now I'm putting heads on, I'm putting those rockers back in, so you can see all of that process going on. I wanted to show this again because it is super tedious. Anyway, now throwing on the performance flywheel, and then here's the performance exhaust, the first part of it. So these manifolds, all the performance stuff is really shiny or red. That's kind of how you tell if it's performance or not. So so I got the, so now we're putting the wires in, the spark plugs have been put in, fuel rails. We're just going through the process. The Viper parts, a lot of them are unique, so it's fun to do. So you can see I'm just running through, I'm skipping ahead a lot, but these are, so this is a repairable part, so I repaired this at the bench, and then there's a lot of bought parts, and then there's parts that I keep on hand. So as we get to the pulleys and things, a lot of those I have in inventory. I'll buy 50 at a time and use them. With filters, I used to do that, but I was starting to, I was running out or having the wrong ones a lot. So I just started buying filters as needed instead. But here we put the engine back into the car. And there you go. Now we're going to do a lot of engine compartment stuff. I'll skip over most of this because it's just the same thing kind of repeated. There's two, and then here's to show that I fully redid the braking as well. And then you have to do each of the fuses. These are another thing. I just keep all of them on hand. Here's the air filter, and I had to buy a new cover. So here's that. And then I'll put that on, and we'll go through. You can see this has two reservoirs for the cooling, and that's because of that one. The smaller one is actually for the injection up there, and then the interior. So slap in the steering wheel and a couple of seats. You can see I bought new ones for this, and then body parts. So a lot of these were missing. So there's one I couldn't repair because it's too far gone, so I'll have to buy another one. I'll put new, but I did repair the hood, so there's that. Glass you can't repair, so I'll just buy a bunch of that. Same with lights. Here's a new bumper, and etc. There's all the body work done. So that part is finished. Now we need to do the underpinnings. So I'm working on, I put in the rack, and now I'm attaching it to the frame, which in real life is what you would be doing. And those bushings, I just keep, again, I buy them by the 50 because it's just easier to have a bunch of them because there's a lot of bushings in any given car. Here we're doing the suspension, so we're working on those front coils or shocks, whatever. And then in the back, it has separate springs and shocks. So, and then performance braking. So this is the best you can get. These are ceramic brakes. So I'm putting all that together, and then the tires I'll do right at the end. I always do that right at the end. And then some exhaust. So I'm doing a full performance exhaust on this, and also you'll see the transmission get replaced with a performance trans. Yeah, just going through and doing all this chassis and running gear work. So there's a performance transmission going in, and then I might have forgot the starter and had to do it later, but and then on the rear I'm doing those suspensions. So you see the suspension arms and other stuff I'm throwing on here. These are just kind of this is the rote work you do to build a car in this game. And a lot of the mechanic work that you're doing involves this sort of thing. Not usually full teardowns. Here you can see I'm doing the springs. So here's the rear springs on the car. Again, those caps I just buy them by the 50 because you can't fix them. And this will all go together with tires and wheels. So you see, I looked at the car. That tells me what size tires to get. So I grab two of the, I believe this is the rear, buy those, and then I will do the same, did the same for the front, and then now I'm assembling them. So you assemble the tires and wheels like this, and then I create a little workflow here. So once this tire is done, I'll take it off. You see the machine takes a minute, so you take it off, and then I do the second one like this, get that machine going, and then balance the one I just took off of it. And I'll just do that back and forth. Normally I'm doing it for 8 tires because I'll have tires set up for 2 different cars. But in this case I'm just doing these 4. So I keep doing that, I get that workflow done, and then I come in and I install those tires. Here again you have to pay careful attention to the size. Then I go up front and I fill all the fluids. At this point the car is ready to go, it's running. All I need to do is pour in brake fluid, oil, etc. You can see the other coolant reservoir, and done. Close the hood, and then I take it to the test room. In here, I'm going to do a wheel alignment. That'll be first, and then I'll do headline alignment. So you can see the wheel alignment system, and then here's the headlights. Make sure you do both. Then once the headlights are lined up, ready to go to the dyno. In the dyno, I will run the test. Takes a little bit, but let this test run and you'll see the numbers get huge. It becomes one of the best drag racing cars you can As you can see, it's a 783 rating. So see the horsepower and torque gains there. They're gigantic. This almost doubled. Then to the paint room. So the factory color is this red. It looks cool, but it's not my thing. So I looked through the liveries to see if they would maybe improve it for me. They didn't. So I was like, all right, what are the other factory colors? So you go here, and these are all the other factory colors. I like this purple, it's pretty cool, but I really like orange. So there you go, going with orange, and then that kind of gray livery. So this one looks good with it. I checked them all, but I didn't want the orange sickle, so I liked this one a lot. So that's the paint I went with. Once the spray process is done, I head over to the drag strip. I just did a fast 1 versus 1 and did a half-mile run. It gives you the quarter-mile numbers anyway, but I did want to see the half-mile run. So that's my competition there. Fairly close, but he's kind of a loser from the beginning. He's a little bit below me in grade. So this should be easy to win. And then it's just a drag run. So the lights come on, you start revving that engine, and you turn it loose. And you just run. You do have to shift the gears, so you're using the left shift key to shift the gears. You can steer, but on a drag strip, that's a terrible idea. And I hit the finish, and here's the numbers. So they're pretty awesome. 2.6 seconds, we'll just round it up to the 60, and did the quarter mile in 10 seconds pretty much flat, and half mile in 15.2. That's not bad numbers for a first run on a car, so I'll take it. Alright, that's it for this. Now I'm just going to show you, I'll just show you a couple pictures of the car so you can see what it looks like. So, really pretty. I really love this paint scheme, it looks really cool. And yeah, and then under the hood, we'll have to show that. Alright, this has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.